Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lode Holt. I'm pausing. There we go. It did start up correctly. A week or so ago, I mentioned to folks in my weekly Bible study group that most people never read one of the most important parts of their Bibles. You see, most of us, when we read the Bible, we simply dive right in, either starting at the beginning with the goal of reading all the way through from Genesis to Revelation, or we have something particular we are looking for or want to be reminded of, so we look up specific passages. But when we do either of those things, we have missed something important. Almost universally, we skip the preface, and we shouldn't. The preface contains all sorts of information about what the Bible is, choices that shape the translation we are using, how the Bible came to be, and interesting perspectives on the text we hold in our hands. So this week, to somewhat illustrate what I'm talking about, I'm moving through the preface of the Bible that I use most often, the HarperCollins Study Bible. Yesterday, I summarized some of the issues the introduction mentions concerning the difficulties of translation. And today we want to move to the next section about whether the Bible is one book or many books. Let me spell out the problem by quoting something from the introduction in my Bible written by Wayne Meeks. He writes, "Anyone who looks carefully at the Bible will be struck by the immense variety of its contents. Here we have prose and poetry, expansive narratives and short stories, legal codes embedded in historical reports, hymns and prayers, quoted archival documents, quasi-mythical accounts of things that happened in the beginning or in God's court in heaven, collections of proverbs, maxims, aphorisms, and riddles, letters to various groups, and reports of mysterious revelations interpreted by heavenly figures." And right there you can see why I'm calling this week of Morning Moments. It helps to know what you are reading. To rightly understand the words of the Bible, it helps to know if you are reading poetry or legal codes. Are you reading a letter to someone or a large, expansive narrative? What kind of literature it is helps us understand the meaning of what we are reading. Filled with God's inspiration, what did the human author have in mind? How does that shape what we are reading and our understanding of it? And then the question we started with, does this variety make the Bible one book or many? The word Bible itself is derived from a plural Greek word, ta biblia, which means the little scrolls. In ancient times, things were written on scrolls, and there are physical limitations to how long such scrolls could be. Sometimes writings were so long, more than one scroll was needed to be used to hold it all. And that's why we have things like 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and that the larger book of Psalms is broken into 5 smaller books. In New Testament times, you have Luke and Acts, which are parts 1 and 2 of a single work. So these scrolls of sacred writings were collected, these ta biblia, or little scrolls, and existed as many books, but collectively they were one book. Eventually, something called a codex was developed, which allowed these writings to be collected much like we use books today. And yet still, we have the question, is the Bible one book or many books? Maybe another way to put it is, does the Bible tell many stories or one story? Maybe even better, is there one story that the many stories in the Bible tell? Well, there are some other things to consider before we can begin to answer that question. Tomorrow, we will consider the composition of the Bible story and how it got put together. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.